Welcome to My Morning Cup, a podcast produced by Costa Media Advisors and brought to you by the generous support of the Tennessee Valley Authority. To learn more about TVA's impact on our community, follow TVA on Instagram at TVA and on Twitter X at TVA News. My Morning Cup, where we have interesting conversations with genuine people. I'm Mike Costa, your host. My guest this week is Alnoor Dhanani, Chief Executive Officer of Double Cola. Double Cola was born in Chattanooga and remains headquartered here nearly 105 years later. Alnoor, welcome to My Morning Cup. Before we talk about your journey from Tanzania to London to the United States, let me ask, what's in your morning cup?
So I've been a big tea drinker.
Oh, yeah.
I like my tea strong and the typical Indian way, which is brewed and with milk and all that. And I used to have it almost every day. I would wake up and make myself 2 cups every day and sort of look out of my back window and go, wow, what a wonderful day.
Oh, nice.
But I've kind of oscillated, or what's the word, vacillated. Now I'm a big coffee drinker. In our office, we have 3 machines. We have a regular coffee maker, we have a Keurig, and we have is it Nescape? Nespresso, yeah.
I have that at home.
You do?
I love it.
And it's brilliant. I love it. I use that, the small Arabic cup, or espresso cup, I suppose. And I say I like my coffee small, strong, and sweet.
Oh, nice. So you went from tea to coffee. Most people go from coffee to tea, at least in the States. Was your tea mainly because of your international upbringing?
Mainly in our household, in those cultures, there's tea is the drink of the day. If it's in the mornings or in the afternoon, you go to somebody's house in the afternoon, it's always tea and cookies and all that. At night, honestly, after dinner, we would have tea. So everybody you are used to having tea. And fortunately for me, when I travel, so I've picked up teas, like if I'm in India or Bangladesh or Ceylon, Sri Lanka. I was in London last week and I went to a tea shop and picked up a seemingly really good brand. So I'm going to test it out too.
Oh, that'll be good. What got you on coffee?
It was there.
Yeah.
I never drank coffee because I needed some sort of an perk me up type thing. I enjoyed the aroma, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And when I have it in that small cup, it really satisfies me. I enjoy it, and it's small and short and quick and all that. So I love coffee as well. And in Nespresso, my favorite is the ristretto, which is a strong flavor of theirs.
Oh, I haven't had that yet. I'll have to try it. Well, I got to tell you, I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
So glad
my pleasure.
It worked out.
I'm looking forward to it. I saw the list of the people that have participated, and I'm in awe. I think that I hope I do you justice.
Oh, I have no doubt. I'm in awe that you're here. I mean, I'm a fan of yours. You're a great contributor to Chattanooga. Double Cola's been here 105 years.
Sure,
but you're more than Double Cola, and I want to tell your story starting in the beginning. You were born in Tanzania?
Yes. So my forefathers, of course, I'm of Indian origin,
right,
but my forefathers had migrated, just like maybe your forefathers migrated from Europe into America.
Yeah, my dad's parents came from Sicily.
Sicily, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you have Italian heritage.
Yes.
So this was all during the British rule days. Most of Africa was colonized by the Europeans, primarily the Brits, but also by the Belgians and the French. And East Africa, Tanzania is in East Africa. And East Africa was colonized by the British, as was India. And I think the British were building railways in Africa, and they brought in this cheap labor from India for the railway construction. And so my forefathers moved there to ostensibly to build railways, but then just stayed there and settled there, and then so like I was born in East Africa. My parents were born in East Africa as well. So several generations.
So you've had several generations, yeah. How long did you live there as a kid?
So brief background is that, most of Africa started getting independent or getting independence in the 60s, 1960s. When you have a dramatic political shift like that from a colonial nation to now suddenly a democracy, it takes time. The notion of democracy very often is quite strange.
It's messy too.
Yeah, it's very messy. I mean, we ourselves had our civil war, so most of Africa went through. I don't think there's any country other than maybe South Africa, that any other African country that has not had a coup d'état. I mean, everybody has had military, and it's growing up sort of rite of passage, so to speak. Anyway, what happened was my family fortunately did very well in business, and then in 1967, the then president of the country announced that we are turning socialist. And it was in April of 1967, he made this big declaration that from now on, the people will own everything. So what happened was the government started nationalizing industries. And by that time, my family was involved in a number of different industries, from automobile. We actually assembled Isuzu vehicles and Honda. We were sole dealers for Isuzu, sole dealers for Honda, Komatsu, Yanmar, number of different agencies. And at that time, the family consisted primarily of 4 brothers, my father and his 3 brothers. And they were all, in the business together. And we were in a multiple of different businesses. And one of the first things that the government nationalized, actually expropriated is the right word, was an oil refinery, an edible oil refinery that my dad used to run. So each of the brothers used to run a different business. And so the brothers decided that, sooner or later, everything is going to go. I mean, that was the stated policy of the country. And so they decided that let's somebody move out of the country and establish a base. And then if things get really worse, the rest of the family can join. So my dad, since the oil refinery had been nationalized, they decided that my dad leave the country.
He'd be the one to go to establish a new...
From rural Africa, I mean, the town I grew up in did not even have electricity. From there, my dad moved to Hong Kong.
Oh, what a culture shock.
Amazing, yeah. Although we didn't stay there long because my dad used to travel a lot. One time he was in London. He fell ill. My mom and my brother and me flew over to see him. It was going to take a while for him to recuperate. And my parents decided, let the boys not waste time. Let them join school, at least, for now.
Oh, that makes sense.
And so we joined school. And then my parents just decided to settle in UK, in London. Yeah. That's how come we moved to London.
That's how you end up there. Make sure I understand. Your dad and his brothers go to Tanzania, or no, the generation before go to Tanzania. But you build businesses there. Everyone's got a different business. And the government turned socialist, and all of a sudden they're turning all industries into nationalistic. And it's time to get out.
Well, whenever you have political instability, people are not going to invest, whether it is local investment or foreign investment. People want security, stability. And so initially, all these developing countries went through this economic difficulties. And I personally always believe that whenever you have political stability is when you will have economic growth.
Well, and that's always been the strength of the United States.
Exactly. We've had this stability all these generations. Anyway, so my father essentially sold his shares to his brothers and moved out. And by that time, we were into several different industries. And one of those industries was beverages, was soft drinks. we had 4 Coca-Cola plants in Africa. So we already,
Wow.
yeah. And so, of course, very profitable.
Yeah.
And we wanted to grow. But, Coke is pretty ubiquitous. I mean, wherever you go, somebody else has that territory.
Yeah.
And so I suppose in those days we were not savvy enough and go and say, hey, Mike, we would like to buy you out. We just said, oh, Mike Costa has that territory.
Not available.
We can't grow.
Yeah.
So that's why we were looking for, it had to be an American company, for a company that would give us an ability to grow. So from the beginning, our whole game plan is that it is a U.S. company. We have to have presence in U.S., but the bulk of our growth will come from overseas.
When you were going through all these moves, how old were you when you left Tanzania?
I was, I think, 13 or 14.
13, 14.
Yeah.
So when you were a kid about that age, were you working in the family business at all?
Not at that time, but when we moved to UK, and so we had a couple of businesses, including one where we had retail shops, and I can think of something like Radio Shack, but we in malls or something, we had shops where you sold refrigerators and ovens and car stereos in those days and televisions.
I remember the car stereo sales.
My first job was to be in our warehouse. And my job was to offload trucks with whatever they brought and put them in the right place in our warehouse.
So you did like shipping and receiving?
Shipping and receiving, exactly, yeah. Mostly receiving, really.
Yeah.
And so, and I was at school there, so I would do that on Saturdays, actually. But it was a fun time. I have to say, I had an amazing time in London. Growing up, teenager, London, it was crazy. It was brilliant.
I was going to ask you, so you get there when you're a teenager and you stay, did you go to university in London?
So I finished my high school and then I joined university there in London and did my BBA, Bachelor's of Business Administration. And then I joined Boston University to do my MSBA, which is Master of Science in Business Administration, but their London campus. So when I was there were 17 American universities there in London, primarily catering to American servicemen, and I started doing my master's, but just then we acquired Double Cola. So I didn't finish. The elders in my family said, "Okay, let's send this boy there."
So you guys had the Coke bottlers in Africa. You moved to London, but you want to expand your beverage holdings,
right?
And not necessarily Coke bottlers are available. How does Double Cola get on your radar?
Well, no. What happened was we actually, not me, but so we had this team in our group that the elders in my family sent to America, and they met a number of different beverage companies here, and ultimately, based on what our needs were and what our affordability was and our plans were, this company was a good fit. So that's when my uncle, who's passed away now, but he was our sort of patriarch, and he and I came here to USA back in 1980 and started negotiating with the people. It was owned by a Canadian company at that time, and ultimately led to the acquisition.
I was doing a little research on Double Cola because I was not familiar with its long history in Chattanooga, but it was basically born and raised here.
Sure, yeah. It was, we have, even today we go through, some buildings might be being torn down or something, and there would be a facade there with our logos and all that. In our building, we used to produce our concentrates on Broad Street, and there we had a lot of memorabilia, and even today we have not a warehouse, but an area where we have kept our historical stuff, for archives and for future use and all that.
That's a good thing to hang on to.
Yeah, it was founded by a very eccentric guy called Charlie Little, and legend has it that he used to concoct drinks in his bathtub. and make his family taste them and all that. Then he would go sell them to the railways and all that here.
So he was a budding entrepreneur, just mixing up stuff in his bathtub.
And he had a knack for flavors and all that. And he had a partner as well. But by all accounts, a great guy. That building that we were in, there was a separate quarters that was his, including his bedroom and living room and all that.
So he was literally living and sleeping on the job.
He was, yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about growing up internationally, because I think that's something that a lot of us as Americans, or born and raised here,
sure,
don't get enough exposure to. How did that affect you in terms of how you look at life, growing up first in East Africa and moving the way you did and growing up in London?
So you have to understand, first of all, Americans are very, very privileged people. And when I first came here, I used to say that, no society, no country is perfect. Every country has its issues and all that. But having lived in different continents, countries, really, America is just about as good as it can get. Only the Americans don't know it.
Yeah.
Remember, this is in early 80s, so we didn't have all this technology revolution and all that. And honestly, in terms of the amenities, in terms of freedoms, there is no country quite like ours. And I wish we, as Americans, appreciated that more. And when I came here, I remember I had a friend who was a dentist. He has passed away. He had never left the U.S. And I used to tell him, David, just go to Jamaica, go to Mexico. You will get a feel of how fortunate we are, It's small wonder, quite frankly, that the rest of the world wants to come live here. I mean, we don't think that, hey, let's go to Brazil or Belize. I mean, some people might go there, but most of the people do want to come to the U.S.
Yeah, we don't want to go to those countries to start a new life.
Exactly.
Yeah, we want to go retire.
Exactly, yeah.
But if you want to start a new life, to your point, people look and they go, I can make it there.
And for us, if you wanted to be a global player, you had to have presence in USA. I mean, USA is the world's biggest market in terms of GDP, in terms of the political strength, the military strength. So I remember when I was a kid, before we ultimately moved out, I was really keen on coming to the US. But I remember very distinctly, very vividly, that my dad was very much against it at that time. And you know why? Because I remember we used to get Life magazine. Mm-hmm. Imagine in rural Africa, you're getting Life magazine. And Vietnam War was going on, and you had all these pictures about the horrors there. And my dad wouldn't let me come here. And
because of what he was seeing in Life magazine.
Exactly,
that was his perception of what's happening in America.
Absolutely, yeah. And then you would hear about, the Kennedy assassination and the Robert Kennedy assassination, MLK assassination. So in those days, you were a bit apprehensive.
It's understandable.
But for a young guy like me, I remember the first time I came to the U.S., I mean, I was in awe. I came to New York, and I was walking on Fifth Avenue and all these buildings, and I was telling myself, one day I would like to own a piece of that. But I was really, really impressed.
What surprised you from the standpoint of you came with a perception, and that perception didn't turn out to be true? Was there something that you said, oh, I didn't expect this?
I think from a personal point of view and from a business point of view, there are different things. Like, for an example, I thought that the American society as a whole was much more casual and friendly than other societies. And if you want me to explain that, I can. But
touch on that.
The other societies are much more formal. Like, certainly my family structure and all that is very, very stiff, very formal. We had big hierarchies in terms of even how I address you. For example, my brother is just 3 years younger than me, but he still addresses me in a formal way.
How so when you say formal?
Formal. So in our language, brother means Ba, B-H-A. So he would address me as Alnoor Ba. And we address our sisters. I have two sisters who are both older than us. We would address them as Bai, B-A-I, which is Sister Shan, And same with the UK. I thought that whenever you went to meet companies for any discussion or negotiations, it was a very formal, very structured relationship in terms of hierarchy, who you met, who they invited me to the meeting. Whereas when I came to the US, when we would meet somebody, we were just still negotiating, and somebody went and sat on the president's chair and put his feet up. And I'm thinking, wow, he's sitting on the president's chair, president of the company, I mean. So for me, that was quite shocking that the president didn't sort of get rattled by it either.
Yeah, we had a guest on about a year ago, Christian Höferle, who does expat training and talks a lot about the cultural differences in business between whether it's Europe and the United States or Japan and the United States or any part of the world in the United States. So,
it's I remember at that time we used to call them secretaries, but my secretary at that time used to drive a Cadillac.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no big deal here. Really. It's nothing unusual. Whereas if you say that a secretary or some accountant was driving a Jaguar or something, it would be unthinkable, And there's much more class distinction than you find here in America. I do think that race is an issue here. I mean, we are making progress in that, but other than that, in terms of the class structure, or that doesn't exist here as much as it does in some of the other countries.
Do you think that's because of the way we are economically, where everyone has a chance to better themselves?
I think this notion of meritocracy is big here, and that's why people from other communities, other foreign lands, whether they are Chinese or Indian or Brazilian, you can make progress here if you have the ability, and people will acknowledge that. In other structures, it's not that easy. And quite frankly, the whole business models are different as well. Here in the West, we have more of a corporate structure.
Mm-hmm.
Overseas, particularly in developing countries, it's more of a patriarchal structure, and that's why for many years we used to have a VP for international. But a few years ago, when he retired, that person retired, essentially I took that job over, simply because I feel when I go to Timbuktu or Casablanca or Tegucigalpa, I can relate better because I've been there. I'm one of them as well in terms of my growing up.
Well, you don't have to learn how to act, for lack of a better term. You know the customs.
Exactly, more or less, yeah. So, the old man might say, "Oh, yeah, okay, your project sounds interesting." He might tell one of his sons or his right-hand man, "Okay, let's see what we can do about it." Whereas here, you have to go through hierarchy and decision making and ladders and all that.
What do you like better?
I've never really thought as to which is better. I do think that the businessmen, I am in awe of them when I meet with the entrepreneurs there. Mm-hmm. There might be the main guy, the patriarch, and then he might have his children involved. And the swiftness in decision making and the boldness, I have to say I have been awed. There have been times when, supposing I'm meeting with you in Ghana, mm-hmm. and I'm talking to you and I'm, telling you why you should do my products. At the end of the day, it's to make money, and the ability to grasp that and make a decision. Okay, let's go. He'll tell his right-hand man, projects guy or something. Okay, do me a feasibility. Let's see how it looks. It's very spontaneous. And so in that sense, I think there have been times when I have felt that my God, I think we are pretty proactive here and dynamic, but I feel that sometimes they put us to shame.
Yeah, we go through a lot of layers, don't we?
Yeah, lots of layers, yeah, and sort of wavering and all that.
You know, that's an interesting perspective because we pride ourselves on entrepreneurism and exceptionalism and individualism, and all of a sudden we've gotten to a point economically where, well, that's a good idea, but I got to take it down to Charlie and then over to Alice and up to here.
And the other thing, many of the companies are publicly traded, so the responsibilities and the follow-ups have to be in line, whereas overseas, he might just say, okay, I want to do it, or no, I'm sorry, it's not in my field type thing, and that's it.
And that leaves it a little bit more in your control because...
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Because you don't have to rely on people who either don't know you or haven't heard the pitch.
Yeah, and so usually... when you go overseas, you want to meet with the owners, really.
Yeah.
And you can judge very quickly whether they are positively inclined. This is for new customers, I mean, whether they are positively inclined or whether they just want to hear you out type thing.
Hear what you got and make sure that...
Yeah, welcome to my country, okay.
Yeah.
Bye.
How old were you when you came to Chattanooga?
I was 25, still at college. And I have to say, growing up in London, it was magical. It was I completely enjoyed it.
Great city.
Great city. As young people, at 2 a.m, if you want to go eat out, you have to literally choose where you want to eat out. Whereas when I came here, everything closed in the 1980s by 8:30 or 9. And I remember there were 1 or 2 restaurants here that. One was Steak and Ale.
Yeah.
And one was, I think it was Kanpai or something in 4 Squares, a Japanese restaurant. These were the 2 restaurants we used to go to.
Well, and you came here in 1981, which Chattanooga may have been at its lowest point. And you come here, an international guy, 25 years old, and you show up in Chattanooga and we're rolling up the sidewalks.
I have to say, I had not even heard of the name Chattanooga until this matter came up. And once I made a decision, okay, I will go take care of things, it was like no regrets, full steam ahead type thing. And at that time, we bought some other businesses as well, not only here, but in Canada as well. So my job was to look after North American operation. And you have to understand, like you said, Chattanooga was this almost derelict, run down, sleepy, parochial, southern, small, dirty, polluted town.
Yeah.
And I was sure I would not like it.
Yeah.
I was sure I would not like it. And plus, if you keep in mind our perspective that we wanted to take this company international, then it made sense to be in a more cosmopolitan city where we can come in and out quicker. So I thought, okay, let me stay here 1 or 2 years so that I would not disrupt. The whole infrastructure was here. And I thought I'd stay here 1 or 2 years and then move on. And that was 45 years ago.
Do you know how many people that we talked to said the same thing? And I've said the same thing. I came here end of 99 and said, I'll be here 2 years.
Exactly.
And I'm moving on. And here I am 25 years later.
But extraordinary thing is that there has not been a day when I have thought, good Lord, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
It's been just, and mind you, my job takes me out a lot as well. But really, I love Chattanooga. I'm a big proselytizer of it. I brag about it wherever I go. And whenever I'm away, I can't wait to get back.
So you're here, you're 25, 1981, and we haven't hit our renaissance yet. So you've seen a lot of change in this town in this time. What do you think was the linchpin that really got the city to change for the positive?
Oh, no question about it. The aquarium, in my mind, that was the turning point. We've had great leadership here in Chattanooga, not only from a political perspective, but from a business perspective and from a civic perspective. We have amazing nonprofits and charitable institutions here that have done phenomenal good for the town, for the city. We have great progressive leadership. Even the current leadership, both at our city level and our county level, is I think that we can only move forward in a positive way. Our chamber is very active, and so we are very fortunate that we have these three factors that work together well.
When you came here and you're coming internationally, did you run into, were people accepting, or did you run into any prejudice because you're Indian, you're international, and it's 1981, Did you have any difficulty?
I did not.
Good.
I did not. And if I went to a restaurant and somebody took a long time to serve me, I don't know that, and quite frankly, I didn't care. But on an overt way, I don't believe that I really had any difficulties, although it's there. And I have to say, my impression at that time was that the racism is directed more towards the black people, and like Indians were professionals that came in here, and we had businesses, and so it was a bit different. I have to say, I was a bit fortunate.
Yeah.
And nowadays, there are so many organizations, whether it is the Small Business Development Center or the Chamber. Everybody is working for the benefit and progress of the town, and I think that's great. Mind you, it's very competitive. You have other, not just nearby ones like Huntsville and Nashville and all that, but if you go to the Carolinas and all that, everybody wants that dollar to come there.
Well, a good example of that was when we were going after Volkswagen.
Yeah, exactly. You go.
That was like the Super Bowl.
Exactly. It was a big thing, but I think aquarium was the turning point.
And that was, so you had been here like 10 years by the time that happened.
Yes.
So what was as all that was being talked about, what was your impression? Were you looking at it going, this is interesting, this could maybe turn it, or like, really, an aquarium?
No. I don't remember specifically, whether I had positive or negative impressions of that. I suspect I would have had positive, although I would have been a bit ambivalent because that whole area was pretty bad to be in. But I don't think I had negative thoughts about the aquarium. I thought it was something positive, and it was very well funded, and the plans were really good. And I think in those days we had Vision 2020, and yeah.
But what a good thing to do. A lot of cities or towns did not do that. Look into the future, and when you think about the 80s or 90s and Vision 2020, that's hard to grasp. It'd be like us saying Vision 2066 at this point.
Yeah.
So obviously that helped turn that, but I do want to turn a little bit back towards Double Cola.
Okay.
And the history there, because I don't think the average Chattanoogan knows enough about Double Cola, because your manufacturing is actually is it New Jersey? And the headquarters are here, though.
Yes.
So kind of walk through that about how that works.
So what happened was we get a few of our raw materials from outside the country. Some of the essential oils, some of the juices we get container load from, let's say, Argentina, etc. They would come into Savannah or Baltimore, wherever they are coming from, and then we would bring them inland to Chattanooga, essentially process them, send them back to the port to be exported.
That's a big step.
So that was one big important factor that, hey, wait a minute, we need logistically speaking, a better area where we can have a quicker turnaround.
A more efficient way to do it.
The second thing was my plant here was a very, very old plant.
Mm-hmm.
Although we were paranoid about our quality control and our testing of raw materials that came in, and also of the finished product that went out. but still, it was very inefficient. We had old equipment. To give you an example, we had 90,000 square feet of place here, our building, and we did an exercise, and we thought we could we could double our capacity and still need only 25,000 square feet.
Wow.
So, with the new equipment
Yeah.
being digital and high speed and all that. Anyway, this notion of all this freight coming in and then going back out was too important that we had to have a facility right at the port. So what happens now is we get container loads, let's say of orange juice or lemon juice or whatever it is, and it's stored in a rented cold warehouse by the port, and then we bring it into our facility as and when needed. And unfortunately, we don't have much presence in terms of our sales here in Chattanooga as a result of a number of different things, but we still call it home. In theory, I could live anywhere now.
But you choose to be here.
Yeah, but we just enjoy it here. All my kids were born here. We have wonderful friends here. Everybody of my family I'm the only family member here in the U.S., immediate family. And whenever we have friends or family come here, they are just in awe about Atlanta and Chattanooga and the neighboring places, Gatlinburg and all that.
Where is the rest of the family now? Where are your business interests and where?
So what happened was we had some properties and some retail business in Canada, and my brother. So all the elder generation, I mentioned my father and his three brothers. All of them have passed away, and in the old days when we were growing up, if you had asked me, "Oh, do you have brothers and sisters?" I would say, "Oh my gosh, I have 30 brothers and sisters," because we all grew up as an extended family. I never differentiated you as a cousin as opposed to you as a brother.
Right.
So all the cousins, everybody is spread out now. And most of the family members left East Africa. Initially, really for education reasons. Everybody wanted their kids to be well educated. And then people so I have now relatives in UK, in Belgium, in Canada, etc. And in terms of my immediate family, we have 4 siblings. Both my parents have passed away, and we have 4 siblings, very, very close. We speak at least once a week.
Do you?
Yeah. And so I'm here. My brother, who is a partner here as well, he has now recently moved to Canada. Sorry, in the last maybe 10 years. He was in London, in England for a while. Then I have a sister who is a doctor who lived many, many years in Malaysia.
Wow.
And then I have my eldest sister, she lives in Vancouver, Canada. And so we are very spread out. My sister, the one in Malaysia, she now retired. She's a doctor, she's retired. So she moved to UK, to London. And now she lives there. So that's it. And we all, like when I went to London, of course, I was with her quite a bit of a while, and her kids and all that.
Well, it gives you a chance to travel, to see everyone. And
yeah, and I do that. It's time flies by too quickly, and if you don't make an effort, then it suddenly you realize I wish I had done it.
Mm-hmm. How often do you travel?
Oh, prior to COVID, I had to travel every 3-4 months, several times a year. Now with COVID, I stopped. Now once everything restarted, I went overseas twice last year, and then this year I'm supposed to go to West Africa. So we are working on setting up all the meetings and all that.
Yeah, all for business.
Oh yeah, completely. Africa. I'm very sort of positive about it right now from a business perspective. Yeah, because Africa went through this generational cycle of growing up politically, and now all these countries are well established politically. They have multi-party systems and good democratic principles, nice civic societies. And Africa is full of natural resources.
Oh yeah.
So when they do well, products like ours should do well as well.
Well, and to your point earlier about in the 60s, they were gaining independence.
Yeah.
And it takes a couple of generations for something like that.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what has happened.
Yeah. So you see Africa as not a potential market, but a growing market of one you're already in. And
very much so. Because they have a decent level of political stability. They have great natural resources. Everything, I don't know, Americans don't really get exposed to foreign exchange matters. But foreign exchange is a big, big factor in any decision making in almost every other country. Because most of the world trades in dollars, US dollars. So if you want to go to UK, you take your dollars and exchange them. But if you lived in Tanzania, let's say, and you wanted to go to UK, you have to get government approval to get pounds or dollars or Swiss francs, whatever it is. So
just to do an exchange, you have to get approval.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I don't know what the latest situation is, and every country might have more stringent or less stringent laws. But everything is foreign exchange related. For an example, when you put up an industry, many of our industries in Africa were what we call import substitution. If you are importing slippers, shoes, you are paying a foreign country to bring their shoes here. Instead, why not make them locally? You generate employment, and then you don't have to worry about going to the government that give me $10 so I can order slippers from China or wherever. So that's a big factory, and we have, for example, a soaps and detergents complex. So the whole idea or the notion was we used to import soap, and instead now I think we only import tallow, which goes into soap, and we make soap and then now export it to other African countries.
That makes sense.
So which is a big factor.
Is the majority of your double cola business outside of the U.S.?
Yes. Oh, yeah. And I think that it'll continue to grow. During COVID, we didn't have much growth per se, simply because we couldn't make an effort. Now, when I go to West Africa, we already signed a protocol for Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast. So I'm going to meet with them. I'm going to meet with companies in Ghana and Nigeria. So I'm looking forward to it.
A lot of potential.
If one of them clicks, and the whole gestation period is probably 2 to 5 years. So supposing I meet you in Ghana, and you say yes, all right, let's start the process. You do a feasibility or a project report study, and then the decision is a go, and then you make sure you have the land, and then you order the equipment, and then install it, and then it takes about 2 years at least.
Does it really?
Yeah.
You know what I found interesting about Double Cola was the origin of the name. It became Double Cola because everyone was selling 6-ounce drinks.
Correct. Yes.
And Double Cola came out with a 12-ounce
Correct.
bottle.
Yes, absolutely. And that was a big marketing spiel at that time for the previous owners, and it did very well for the company. It was a big stimulus for us being able to make that jump in terms of our sales and our distribution. And
Is the ski flavor your most popular brand?
Ski is a perennial growth product for us. I have to say, Ski is a bit like Apple products. Apple is by no means the biggest technology company, but people that use Apple products
very loyal
are passionate about it. Yeah. So Ski drinkers are like that. We have such fanatical and strong drinkers of Ski. Sometimes, if they notice a slight change, we will hear about it.
From that perspective, if they notice a slight change, and because you lived through this, when Coca-Cola changed their formula, did you just go, what are they doing?
Not really.
No?
I mean, they are all very smart people.
Yeah.
And they would have made their calculations and all that. I think they just did not expect the public backlash. Conceptually, it was a good idea. But, I was not privy to their sort of conversations and all that. But, they are very capable people, so I'm sure they went through and everybody has products that they will try or innovate, and some work and some don't work. And you just have to keep on plugging away, and hopefully something will catch on.
Well, that's a great metaphor for one's career, or how you make it. You just got to keep trying things to find the thing that works, and keep going at it. So you're always looking for ways to add products.
Yes, even now. I mean, I can't mention specifically, but we are working on a product that will not be a Me Too product.
Mm-hmm.
So we are working our labs, and we have 3 labs actually. We have a lab for where we test our product, the finished product that is produced by our bottlers, and then we have a lab for testing raw materials and finished concentrates, and then we have a lab for doing new product, what we call new product development. And so we are working on different products and concepts and all that some of them are similar to what you find in the trade today, and 1 or 2 of them are quite novel and quite different that would make us pioneers in that. But I think by September or October we should be ready with those, and probably from a timing point of view, we might be ready for early next year in the springtime when you have the whole year.
Well, I'm curious to know what they are, but I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you because I understand that. I look forward to seeing those. A couple more questions for you, Alnoor.
Sure.
You're very involved in the local community. Why is that important to you?
Fundamentally, first of all, you are so lucky. All your life, you've been fortunate enough not to be in a position that many of the other people are, and you feel that you have to contribute, you have to give something back to your community, and it's part of our cultural DNA as well. My faith, my family. My father had set up a couple of schools. My uncles were involved in lots of charities in Africa and in India and all that, and. Quite frankly, it's not so much, that it's almost like catharsis. It's not that I want to give so that somebody else might benefit. It's like I want to give because I feel good about it.
That's a great point.
Yeah, every situation has needs. Whether it's children, whether it's elderly, whether it's poverty alleviation. I mean, there are so many needs. Mm-hmm. And those needs are compounded in other countries. But here, initially, what we focused on was children, anything to do with children. But, as I grow older, today I'm thinking that what can we do to minimize this homelessness situation? Yeah. And I don't have an answer, but I'm thinking about it. I feel really bad that somebody who has spent his or her whole life suddenly doesn't have a home when he or she is old. It's just not acceptable.
Yeah, and there's so many factors to that. But the fact that you're interested in trying to make that better.
Yeah, and it's really personal. I don't know, salvation or something.
Yeah, but you also bring up a good point. We all do community things for a lot of different reasons. But at the end of the day, if you're doing it right, it's about making yourself feel better a great degree.
It is. Really, at the end of the day, you feel good about it.
Yeah, great point. Before I get to my last question, I want to remind our listeners who makes all this possible. Thank you to the Tennessee Valley Authority for sponsoring My Morning Cup. Follow TVA on social media to learn more about its multifaceted mission of service, and visit tva.com/do good here to explore exciting TVA career opportunities. Now, you've had a fascinating life. You've lived a lot of places and obviously successful. Think back to your 25-year-old self. You're getting to Chattanooga. What would you tell your 25-year-old self is important for a happy life?
So, 25 is an age when you've just come out of college, maybe your first job. But I think we have to keep balance in our lives, balance in our perspectives, and we get too embroiled in whatever we are doing at that time. So I think that we have to keep a perspective that, life involves so many different things, and that we have to have a balanced life. In other words, we have to take care of our future. We have to take care of our health. At 25, I think many people don't really care at all about the health and all that. So if I was 25 today, I would tell myself, Alnoor, live a balanced life. Start early. Start there. I think that would ensure that we have a healthy future, as we get older.
I love that, because at 25 we're bulletproof. We're invincible.
Yeah.
You're doing things that you look back on, you realize how stupid they were.
I know it, absolutely.
And much less taking care of yourself and exercising, eating right, but living that balanced life and doing the right things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you know what? That old age gets to you quick.
I know it. And everything kind of, is downhill then.
Yeah, it did. At least it has for me. Alnoor, I've really enjoyed this.
Hey,
I appreciate you coming.
The pleasure has been mine, really. I appreciated it. And it's, as always, great speaking with you. And thanks for having me on the podcast.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for listening to My Morning Cup, a podcast by Costa Media Advisors. If you liked this episode, please share it with a friend. I release a new episode each week, so be sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple, Google, or wherever you listen to podcasts.